father. When can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not the Mouse, the podcast all about animated features not made by Disney. I'm your host, Octaviano Macias, and today, since I already finished the SpongeBob month, I figured, okay, let me do something a little more recent, a little more different, a little more relevant, even though by the time this comes out, it's probably no longer relevant, but whatever. Point being, it's something new. And funny enough, this features Tom Kenny as well, though this time taking a backseat as one of the supporting characters, not the main character like he has been in the past month. This is Pinocchio, A True Story. Yeah, the movie that has become an online meme for a pretty obvious reason. Pauly Shore is in this, and yeah, that line that he has is, very... Look, I don't want to be insulting here, but come on. You guys all know, how this sounds like, him going, "Father, I want to leave and be on my own." Yeah, come on. You know what it sounds like. Not that I'm trying to be insulting or anything. It really isn't. It's just that, yeah, wow, that's interesting line reading. Though I don't think it was intentional. I'm pretty sure Pauly Shore just came in, didn't give a fuck, and just threw that in, and that's what we got. So, yeah, Pinocchio, A True Story. This has become an online meme for, again, obvious reasons, and I figured, okay, I might as well watch it because I've seen so many clips, and I kind of wish that I hadn't seen a lot of the clips that were online, just because, while there isn't a lack of funny stuff that happens in this movie, a lot of the stuff that people have shared are pretty much a majority of the funny stuff that happens in this movie, so it's kind of like, well, once you see all that, it's done for. Like, again, this isn't to say that nothing funny happens throughout the entire movie. Of course, it's all unintentional, but watching it as a whole, as it went along, it just got more and more boring, a lot slower, and it's just like, okay, look, I expected this to be a bad movie. I didn't expect this to be a bad movie, like a bad, boring movie. Like, I was hoping it would be a funny to watch, unintentional comedy kind of thing, and not really. That's the sad thing, is like, at first it does kind of go on that way, and even towards the end, there's still a few things that are still worth checking out that I didn't see from any of the memes and stuff like that, but nothing ever quite lives up to the stuff that has already gone around, like, Pinocchio being shot at, Pinocchio, sounding kind of gay. Look, there it is. That weird Geppetto line where he's all like, oh, I can't name him Leonardo because then he'd be a turtle who eats pizza all the time because they don't get it, Ninja Turtles. Yeah, a lot of it is just stuff that, happens right away, and by the time you see it, it's like, well, that just doesn't leave much for later in the movie, does it? And, yeah, that's the disappointing thing here. Pinocchio, A True Story is a bad movie. Shock of all shock. Now, that isn't to say that there isn't anything worthwhile, realistically there isn't anything worthwhile, but there isn't anything, like, laugh-worthy as it goes along. It's just that, yeah, you're better off. If you've seen the memes, you're probably better off skipping it. If you've only seen, like, maybe at most the one line reading that everyone shares, then by all means, check it out. You'll probably have a better time at this than I did. But, yeah, because of that, I just can't really recommend it, even as a so bad it's good kind of watch. And it sucks because I really did have high hopes for this. I mean, this is okay, right off the gate, this is a foreign, Russian-produced animated feature. We got it. It was dubbed with Pauly Shore, Tom Kenny, and John Heder. Apparently, there's another version that was released in, like, the UK that had different voices. I've heard that one's more boring, so I'm at least glad that I got this version. But yeah, this is definitely more of a disappointment than it should have been, considering everything. So, okay, Pinocchio, just to give it, a quick backstory, I guess. Look, we already know Pinocchio. I mean, there's a Disney version. There's been a lot of versions that have been done over the years. Most of them are not very good. The Disney version is, by all means, the most beloved version, and for a reason. It is a really good movie, and, compared to a lot of other versions that have been made, it's the only one that's, actually stands out well. This year, we're actually getting a few more Pinocchio movies, so this is ahead of the curve. Because later in the year, we're supposed to get Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio movie. Looking forward to that, because Guillermo del Toro is great. We got a Disney Plus Pinocchio movie. This is a live action remake of the cartoon. It's being done by Robert Zemeckis, who, sometimes does good movies, sometimes does not do good movies. Though, more consistently than not, I do like Robert Zemeckis' work, even during the period that most people tend to hate on him, which is when he was big on doing, like, the motion capture stuff, like Polar Express and whatnot. I've had my fun with those movies, so I can't say I really hate them or anything, but the fact that it's a Disney live-action remake is kind of troublesome, though. I do appreciate that from the stills that they've released, it showcases that the Pinocchio we'll be following is a puppet that's modeled after the cartoon version, so that's already better than most of the live-action remakes. But of course, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Pinocchio, A True Story, and yes, the movie calls itself A True Story. I don't know why. The only thing I can tell you that kind of hints at that being a true story is that at the start of the movie, we do get John Heder playing the horse in the movie, Tybalt, coming out to say, look, every other version of this story is bullshit. Like, noses, they can't grow that big. Which I'm like, a horse, voiced by Napoleon Dynamite, mind you, is telling me that everything that happens in those other Pinocchio stories is wrong and fake because noses don't grow that big. A horse is telling me that the Pinocchio stories that I know are bullshit, and this is the actual non-fiction one. I expected so much better out of this because of that. I mean, that itself just broke my brain a little bit, and is one of the few things that I hadn't been spoiled on. So yeah, we get to start the story. Geppetto creates a wooden puppet. It's like every other version. Only the difference is that in this one, he gives a wand, like he fixed up a wand for like a witch who basically brings Pinocchio back to life. Witch fairy, whatever. It's like the whole blue fairy thing, only I guess this one's more realistic because instead of the blue fairy coming in, trying to answer his prayers, she's just like, oh, this is something he'll like. A real son, but it's gonna be the wooden puppet. Yeah, there's your start of the story. Pinocchio grows up. Well, not really grows up. I don't even know how many days it's supposed to be when we, continue on from the story. But the point is that Pinocchio is doing, things. He's being kind of a dick. He's like, oh, I'm tired of being alone in here with this talking horse. And he pretty much decides, like, okay, I want to explore the world, especially after, like, these detectives come snooping around looking for trouble, which I don't know why they would be afraid of Pinocchio in the sense that it's like, okay, look, you already got a talking horse, like, what's going to be the trouble of revealing, like, hey, look, I have a son and he's a wooden boy. I mean, it's weird, but I don't think the detectives are going to do anything about it. But they, of course, are like, oh, we got to hide because, we can't, tell people the truth about this. But then, 2 minutes later, after Pinocchio saves a carriage from falling down and a girl in there, people know, so it's like, who cares, really? But that leads us to the other part of the story. The main focus is that in this version, because like in the Disney one, there's like the Stromboli character. In this one, there is like a circus guy or like a performer. He has a fox and a cat working for him, as well as this girl that Pinocchio saves, and it's pretty much the whole, like, oh, we're a circus and we need a new act, and Pinocchio is going to be our new act, because, wooden boy doing stuff. I mean, people are going to be tripping their shit when they see a wooden boy doing stuff. So that's pretty much Pinocchio's excuse for leaving. He tells Geppetto, like, hey, look, these guys are going to, give me money so we can, I don't know, give you money, Geppetto, when you need it or something. I don't fucking care. Point is that Geppetto decides, okay, I'll let it. And this is also one of the weirder bits where Pinocchio, after getting the approval, runs over to the horse and he goes like, skeet, 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 skeet. And it's like, why is he saying skeet, 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 skeet? So he joins the circus and it becomes popular. These detectives that were in there in the movie are constantly going, like, they pop up every now and then, basically being like, oh, there's trouble afoot or some bullshit. And it's stupid. Pinocchio is a success, but at some point he's like, oh, I want to be with the girl that I saved because she's so beautiful. And it's kind of funny in this portion of the movie because since Geppetto's not around, Pinocchio tells the horse Tybalt to be his dad, and the horse is just like, whatever, I guess I'll be your dad. And I'm like, again, I had so much more expectation for this movie being a lot funnier, but you get that, the horse tells him, like, hey, tell her your feelings, it's better to be rejected than to have never, tried going for it. So he, of course, tries going for it, but the girl is pretty much like, look, I don't like you, whatever, get the fuck out of here, you fucking creepy puppet. And, Pinocchio's, of course, heartbroken. And this is all because she finds out that, the circus owner, who's supposed to be her dad, or adopted dad, so to speak, pretty much is just using her as a way to keep Pinocchio around, because he knows that Pinocchio has a thing for her. So he's like, oh, if she leaves or whatever, then Pinocchio will leave, or if she breaks her heart, or his heart, Pinocchio will leave. And, just to, treat Pinocchio good, she's like, oh, get out of here. Because it turns out, and this is something where I'm like, okay, did I miss a thing? Did I kind of fall asleep? Because there was stuff that, of course, were just too boring, that I just couldn't, I couldn't keep my attention going. But, later on in the movie, it's revealed, like, okay, so the circus is pretty much, at least the head and the fox and the cat are stealing from people while this act is going, which I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense, because, early on in the movie, the fox and the cat, especially the cat, is all showing off about acts that he could be doing to make money, or whatever, to make more money for the circus, because it's, been losing money as of late. And I'm just like, okay, why were they pitching for new acts that involve them if they're going to be sneaking out to steal this stuff? Like, wouldn't they want more performers? Like, doesn't that make sense? But whatever. We need, I guess, conflict in this. So yeah, you got the girl basically telling Pinocchio off, and Pinocchio thinks that, like, oh, the reason why she told me off was because I'm a puppet. If I became a real boy, then that's what would fix it. Because, like, in this version, he doesn't really care about being a real boy until it becomes convenient for him. It's not like the other ones where it's like, okay, look, the Blue Fairy tells, Pinocchio, like, you'll be, brought to life, but in order for you to become a real boy, you have to prove that you're worthy of it. In this one, it's like, okay, he goes on this adventure to find the fairy or witch or whatever, to basically turn him into a boy, and it's the one from the beginning, and she's just like, oh, I can't do that. But then when Pinocchio leaves, her parrot comes in and is like, you could have done that easily, and she's all like, yeah, but if I did that, he wouldn't have learned anything, so he's got to learn to be human first before, he has that happen, which I'm like, wait, so you could do that this entire time, but you just won't, because you want him to learn a lesson that you weren't even trying to teach him before, and, it's a problem, too, because you realize, like, wait a second, if that's the case, wouldn't he have turned into a human the second he sacrificed himself the first time to rescue Bella? Because, and that Bella's a girl. Because, he does risk his life to, save her. Like, of course, he doesn't, get hurt himself, but it's like, he was risking his life to save someone else. Isn't that already human enough as it is? Like, whatever. I don't know why I'm thinking too much on this. This is a dumb movie. But yeah, you got that, and it's just awkward animation. The animation is very poor, which par for the course for these kinds of movies. But every now and then you want something to be impressive, and no. Like, Pinocchio himself doesn't even look like a wooden puppet half the time. He just looks like a regular guy. It's just that when you get close, you see, like, oh yeah, he has like the little the wood. Like, I don't know what to call it, but like those little markings that you get like on like trees and whatnot, like when you chop it, like it's like a wood layer on him. So I'm like, oh, that's why he's a puppet, because he's got a wood layer to him. But it's like, otherwise he looks like a real thing. Like the Disney cartoon, made him look cute, but at the very least he actually did look like a puppet half the time, and they actually did put a lot of effort into making him look kind of like a dummy, and then having him come to life and all that stuff. You don't get that here. Not that I'm really surprised. I mean, this is just dumb. And look, I've seen dumb stuff before. I've seen dumb movies, usually ones that make me laugh. And yeah, there was some stuff that make me laugh. Like, eventually, once everything comes to place and they realize, like, oh, these guys have been stealing from people, they do go and do an act where all the circus performers sing about how they were innocent because they didn't know about it, which I'm like, wait, how did you guys not know? And, isn't this why the girl tried getting rid of Pinocchio, because she kind of knew that something was up? But whatever. So they all sing a song, and it's a very bad song. Pauly Shore gets a line or two in there, and it's just like, this is embarrassing. Yeah, that's pretty much what, like, the detective, comes in, saves day, and he's like, oh, glad these people confessed, and, I was always a good detective, ever since I lost my kid, which I'm like, oh god, they're doing this, aren't they? And yes, they do it. They reveal like, oh, look, the girl that Pinocchio fell in love with was actually the daughter of the detective all along, because, he lost a kid, she lost a dad. What else could it possibly be? I don't know what to tell you guys. It's a bad movie. It's definitely the worst movie I've seen so far of this year. It's the worst movie I've reviewed on this show. Atlantis Square Pants is, you can move aside. At least you had maybe like one or two funny bits and, featured characters that I like for the most part. This is just bad. It's bad, awful, bad. One of the worst movies. Bad. Just don't even watch it. I mean, if you really have to, if you just found that one bit where, he says the line like the whole father, I want to leave home, I want to be on my own. If you want to watch it because of that, I get it, and that's the one reason why I wanted to watch it. But if you've already seen clips of the movie that people have pointed out that are stupid, you're better off just rewatching those clips, because that's the funniest it gets. I mean, there is a few bits, like, of course, like I said, there's like the whole song where they confess about what's been going on, but that's not enough. This was just a bad movie, and honestly, it's kind of baffling how they have this whole true story thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's just a way to kind of trick parents into thinking, oh yeah, this is the 100% accurate to the original version, because, that's a common thing that they do when it comes to, things where it's like, oh, the Disney version is fake, but, this other version, that's the true version, and for some reason that gets some people thinking into like, oh, this is the good one because this is the one that is closer to the source material, even though this really isn't. But so long as they tell people that this is the true version, that becomes the thing that some people think like, oh, that means that it has to be the good one. Because, again, for some reason, people have this mentality that the closer it is to the source material or the truer it is, that means the better it is, which realistically is like, no, that's not how that works. Point is, this movie sucked. If you enjoyed it, trust me, it ain't worth it. Pauly Shore and John Heder are not wacky enough to hold it together, and yeah, it was just a bad experience, so I don't know. I definitely don't recommend it. Like I said, maybe you might get something if you only watch that one clip that everyone shares and nothing else that's been memed, and you might find some enjoyment, but otherwise, you're better off just skipping it and just sticking to the memes. There's like a few sequences that are good, I mean, unintentionally, but it's definitely not something where I'd recommend. So thank you for watching and thank you for listening. This has been Octaviano Macias, and I hope to see you next time.
What should we name you? Maybe Leonardo. No, he'd grow up to be a turtle who only cares about pizza.
Thank you for coming on and listening to me today. If you enjoyed it, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow my podcast. It's on Podbean, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And if you want to support me even more, there's always the option of Patreon. Patreon is a great way to support artists, and with that, you can always put in $1 or even more. It's all up to you, all just to help produce the show and other things I may do. Thank you again, and I hope to see you in the coming future.